We work with over 50 roofing contractors across the US. A lot of them are in similar markets. They do similar appointments, similar leads. But how is it that some of them close at 40% with like 35% profit margins, while some others barely close at 15% and have to underbid, undercut to get jobs in the same markets? That's what I'm going to cover in this video, the four main pillars, the four main things that we've seen the top 5% of roofers and our best clients do to help them close at high numbers so that you can implement some of these things into your roofing business and close more deals. Now, why this matters and why you should even listen to me in the first place, I'm the co-founder and the head of sales at Contractor Liberty. Now, what our company does, as I said, we work with over 50 roofing contractors across the US. Our thing is we help, again, roofing contractors and home service businesses with their marketing and keeping their sales teams busy, closing more deals. Now, part of that obviously is just getting qualified appointments so they even have the opportunities in the first place, but also it's helping them build a sales process so that they can close those appointments. And that's a big problem that we see is we can get appointments, but there's some guys who are going to close fantastically without any of our help. And some others in the same markets are going to close like complete crap. And obviously it's our responsibility to make sure that our clients are closing because we actually want to get them results. So over the years, we've seen a couple of patterns and things that the successful roofers are doing that the unsuccessful ones aren't. And it mainly comes down to four pillars, like I said, which I'll be breaking down in this video. Now, I'll be separating this into two categories of the successful roofer and the unsuccessful roofer or the unsuccessful sales team. We're going to call them unsuccessful Tom and successful Jason. The reason, so to be clear, is this is actually like data that we got from one of our existing clients. Both are in Central Florida. Obviously, I gave them fake names to kind of protect their privacy. But both are in the same markets. They were doing very similar leads, but Jason was closing at 40%, as I said earlier. Tom at around 15%. And so we interviewed both. We wanted to know like what's going on. Why is this even happening? And we saw again that it was these four main things that came down to it. So I'll be showing for each one what each one was doing wrong or right and how you can fix that in your business. So first thing, the four pillars that I mentioned that we see the successful roofers are doing that the unsuccessful ones aren't. The first thing is going to be speed to lead and first contact. I'll be showing that later on, but it's the first impression that matters. And so this first pillar is extremely important. The second pillar that I'll be breaking down that the successful roofer is doing is the pre-appointment prep itself. So before the appointment, what the sales rep and what the sales team is doing to ensure that the appointment is going to be warm. And the specific processes that we have in place there that I don't see a lot of roofers doing. And to be honest, they're losing on a ton of revenue because they're not doing it. So I'll be showing that later on. Third pillar is the appointment process itself or lack thereof. A lot of roofers I talk to, they think that just by showing up and giving a bid, they're like the best salesperson out there, but a lot of systems that people have are like 20 years old. They don't have sales processes that actually work today. So we have an actual sales process that we give to all the roofers that we've seen performs consistently, and I'll be breaking down the way that that works. And finally, the fourth pillar is going to be follow-up post-appointment. How you keep the lead nurtured and how you eventually get deals over the line, even after you've had an appointment itself. Because obviously you don't want to be the guy who just emails bids and never hears back. But go into more detail on each one. The first pillar, speed to lead and first contact. As I said, I'll be breaking this down into what the unsuccessful roofer does and the successful roofer does, or the successful sales team. Now, what we see that the unsuccessful roofer, let's call him unsuccessful Tom, like I said earlier, does is when it comes to speed to lead and first contact, obviously, as you guys know, the first impression is very important. And usually these kind of sales teams are very slow. And that's a big problem. They're very slow. The first contact is very shoddy and it's very sloppy. So they'll call leads hours later. A lead might come in at 9 a.m. They'll call them at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When they do call them, again, it's usually like the office manager or whoever it is in the company. There's not a lot of qualifying or vetting that's done. They're kind of just booking anybody, maybe because they're used to referrals. They're not used to having a lot of leads coming in. But there's not much vetting done. So a lot of people who shouldn't have been let through are let through, which just kind of wastes time for the sales rep itself. And when it comes to actually speaking to the homeowner, the office manager or call center does no pre-selling. They don't build value. They don't build differentiation. They kind of just treat it as, let me just collect this person's information and book the appointment. That could have worked before, but these days when people are reaching out and speaking to 5 different companies, they want someone who's different. They want someone who builds value, who kind of educates the homeowner, gives value. And when you sound like everybody else, again, you're kind of in a race to the bottom. And then one big thing that we see, and this is something that I don't know why it's not more popular in the roofing industry, but there's no transfer. And by that, I mean that the sales rep isn't introduced to the homeowner up until the actual appointment. That means that the homeowner has no first impression on the sales rep. The office manager might tell the homeowner, hey, you know, it's going to be Tom who's coming out on Friday, whatever it is, but there's no transfer. The homeowner doesn't speak to the rep. So there's no trust that's built. And what that means is the homeowner's first impression is that they haven't built any trust. They haven't built any relationship with the sales rep himself. Now, what we see that the successful sales team does, let's call him successful Jason, as soon as the lead comes in, the office manager is calling that person as soon as possible. So within minutes. Obviously, you guys know that speed to lead is very important. The leads are actually qualified and vetted. Only the right ones are led through. You're not going to book someone who wants to get a roof done in 3 years and is just looking for the cheapest price. You can give them a ballpark, but wasting 2 hours of your sales rep's time for that is kind of a waste. And they're actually pre-sold. Value is built over the phone by people who actually understand the industry. And by that, I mean, if the homeowner mentions like the insurance process, they mention that they want to file a claim or anything like that, the person over the phone actually makes an effort to show how they can help them with that. Explain to them how their insurance process works, how they can help them, how they have a public adjuster license, whatever it is, actually building value and showing how they're different and pre-selling the homeowner makes it so the appointment itself is much warmer. And so that first contact is really important. And a big step that I see almost nobody do in roofing, this is pretty common in other industries like real estate and other sales industries, but roofing, it's very uncommon. It's going to be a warm transfer. And this is what we do for all our clients, by the way. When we qualify our clients' leads, it's a warm transfer where the office manager puts the homeowner through to the sales rep right off the bat. That means the homeowner is talking to the sales rep, they're building trust, they're building rapport. It allows successful Jason, in this case, to build trust, explain to the homeowner that they'll be coming out, introduce themselves. And what that does is the homeowner's first impression is trust. They like the person that they're talking to. They're actually speaking to the rep. They feel like important and it's professional. It sounds like a well-oiled machine. So by having these 4 steps, successful Jason is in a much better spot than unsuccessful Tom. So the main takeaway here on this first step on the speed to lead and first contact, I would say, is that sales starts the second that the lead comes in. You don't wait until you're at the appointment to actually start selling. You should already have processes in place before that to make sure you have the best chance of getting the deal. Now that's going to be the first pillar, the speed to lead and the first contact. Now the second one is what happens before the appointment, the day of, basically. So the pre-appointment prep. They said that the lead came in on Monday and the appointment is on Wednesday. This pillar is what you're doing on Wednesday, so the day of. Now, what we see that usually unsuccessful or C-player sales teams do in the home service game is when it comes to the day of, they show up usually cold. They kind of just get to the driveway. They haven't called the homeowner. They haven't introduced themselves. Or if they have, they maybe called them like once and they kind of just gave up. They didn't give an agenda to the homeowner, which is very important. You want to give clarity and structure to the homeowner so they know what to expect and they actually feel important. In this case, a lot of them are not going to give any agenda to the homeowner. They don't know who's home, which obviously is a big problem. They don't know that husband and wife, all decision makers are present, the owner of the home. They don't know that. They're just kind of showing up cold and hoping that it's the case. And they're not actually giving any value or like a different process to the homeowner. To the homeowner, it kind of just feels like they're like every other roofer. And usually what happens is they kind of just put you in like the price bucket. They're just going to look at you as another person coming out, giving them a bid. They're not really going to make an effort to make sure that all decision makers will be present because, again, they view you as every other roofer. And what successful Jason does is he understands that differentiation is very important in this game, especially in the sales game. And so the day of, he maintains rapport. He calls the homeowner the day of. So usually what we tell our roofers and what our successful roofers do is 3 hours before, 2 hours before, 1 hour before, they'll try to have as many touch points. They'll give a call to the homeowner, whoever's going to be present at the appointment, to introduce themselves. And at this point, you've seen that they've already spoken to them on the first day when they had the warm transfer, but they're going a step further. So the day of, say the appointment's at 12 o'clock, Jason is going to call the homeowner at 9 a.m., introduce himself, build value, ask questions. If the homeowner doesn't answer, he's going to send them a selfie video to build that familiarity bias. So he's able to introduce himself. It makes it so by the time he shows up, the homeowner's already seen Jason. They've already spoken to him. They already like him. It's going to be a much warmer appointment. And that's the problem that I see with a lot of roofers is when they show up to an appointment, they're kind of going basically against the current because the homeowners are cold. They don't trust the person that they're speaking to. But if you've already introduced yourself and they're much warmer, it's going to be easier to follow your sales process. So they're sending a selfie video to build that familiarity. They're calling them the day of. They're giving them a clear agenda on the appointment so the homeowner knows what to expect. And they're giving value when they're doing that. So when they're speaking to them over the phone, they're telling them like, hey, just to let you know, when I'm coming out, I'll be looking at your roof through satellite before I come out. So I'll actually have a detailed report to show you, a line-by-line estimate. He's actually explaining what's going to happen at the appointment and what he's going to do on his end to give value to the homeowner. What happens when you do that is the homeowner feels like they have to reciprocate that value. It's just a law of reciprocity. The sales rep has gone out of his way to give value to the homeowner. So homeowner feels like they have to give value back, which is why usually we see that by having this, all decision makers will be present and they'll be much warmer because they feel like they have to reciprocate the kind of the value that the person has provided them. Also on this phone call, Jason's going to make sure that husband and wife are going to be present. So again, tying back to the decision makers, he's making sure that everything is good. He's already going to have an estimate or a template of a contract or whatever he needs before the appointment so he can focus on closing. Now, what happens when he does that is the homeowner trusts him, again, because he's already provided value. They're actually excited for the appointment. They're not like, oh, this is another sales guy coming out to my house. They're actually excited because Jason's already built the trust, and they actually get all the decision makers involved on their own. They're doing it themselves basically because they like the person who's coming out. They feel like they have to reciprocate the value. So the big takeaway with that is when successful Jason follows this process, by the time he arrives, the homeowner is excited to meet him. The decision makers will want to be there and they feel obligated to reciprocate the value and give something in return because he's already given them, the satellite imagery and everything that he needs before the appointment. Whereas Tom in this case is probably only going to get one of the decision makers or none whatsoever, and usually a very cold appointment where he kind of has to fight against the current to even get to the house and follow his process. He's probably getting people who are asking him like who he is and, oh, I've spoken to 10 roofers, which one are you? It's a very cold process and you don't want to be in that bucket. So that's the second pillar. That's what you do the day of, pre-appointment prep. Now the appointment itself, the actual appointment process that you're going to follow, obviously is going to be very important. And I say or lack thereof because honestly, a lot of people don't really have a structure for this. And that's what we see the biggest problem is with the C-player sales team, unsuccessful Tom in this instance, is usually there's no script, there's no structure. They kind of just show up, they do the appointment, they get on the roof, they give him a bid. There's no structure, there's no script. There's not a proven, repeatable process that they use. And usually they're going to be very emotional about sales. Maybe they really want the check, they really want the commission. So they're not going to trust their process. They're going to show up, be very emotional, be very pressury, and it just comes off as commission breath, and the homeowner isn't going to like that. They're not really building rapport or showing how they're different because they're probably just focused in their head on the deal. They're not actually following a proven process, and they're not really showing how they're different and building that like factor with the homeowner. And a big thing that we see, and this is one of the things that kill a sales process, it's probably the biggest one, honestly, is now prioritizing speed and urgency. A lot of roofers I talk to, honestly, about half of our clients do this, and it's something we really have to dissuade them from doing, but they email bids. So once they're at the appointment, they just tell the homeowner, okay, sounds good, I took a look at your roof, I'll email you a bid. It might come in within a day or two, and get back with me. That's probably the worst thing that you can do. It might have worked 20 years ago when a homeowner came from a referral and they were talking to 3 roofers. But if you're talking to a homeowner who's talking to 6 roofers and it's a retail quote and you have to get the deal then and there, you're not going to win by emailing them a bid. They're just going to scroll down, look at the price and forget about it. And this is what happens is the homeowner is only going to look at you for your price, which is why you're in a bidding war. So you're going to close less, and for less, you're going to get $2,000 profit on a job. And they're going to have to think about it because there's no decision makers. They don't really like you. They don't really see how you're different. They just are uncertain. And obviously someone who thinks about it usually doesn't close. And maybe it's basically a no in this game. Now what successful Jason does that's different is he starts with building rapport. He doesn't go straight to the process, to the script, whatever it is. He's already started building rapport on the phone, which is going to help him because he was speaking to the homeowner earlier when he was doing his pre-appointment prep. And he uses that to get rapport right into the appointment. He starts by building rapport, by giving value to the homeowner, by showing how he's credible. And once he's sold himself and the homeowner likes him, that's where he goes to his repeatable and clear process. This is very important. He knows his process. He knows the script in his mind. He basically is the script. He's done it so many times that he knows how to use it. He knows it works and he doesn't move away from it. He's not emotional about it. He knows his process and he's going to follow it because he knows that it closes. And a big thing that he does, and this is pretty common practice in roofing nowadays, but a lot of roofers don't do it, is he follows good, better, best pricing. I'm sure if you guys have been in the roofing sales game for a while, you know what I'm talking about. But he gives 3 different pricing options to the homeowner to give them the illusion of choice. So instead of having the homeowner compare different roofers and different price points, he gives them the different options. So he's going to give them a cheap option, a mid-priced option, and an expensive options. And when you do that, the homeowner feels like they have the illusion of choice. They feel like they're choosing the best option, where realistically all options lead to Jason. That's why it works so well. You're kind of giving them control, but realistically, you're the one who's going to get the deal no matter what. And the final thing that he does is he already has his estimate and his contract ready. And that's what comes down to the pre-appointment prep. Before the appointment, he already had everything ready to go. So that once he's at the appointment, he can just focus on selling and getting the one call close, which is really important. A lot of roofers, they feel like selling is slimy. If you feel that obviously you're not going to sell very well, so they don't push for the one call close. But successful Jason knows that it's the best thing for the homeowner, so he already has everything ready to go to get the deal then and there. So the result with this process is that Jason is going to get a warm appointment because of his pre-appointment process and the fact that he's building rapport. He actually gives the homeowner options, and any option that the homeowner chooses leads to a sale, which is why the good, better, best pricing model is so powerful, and I'd recommend to do your own research on that. And he gets the deal the day of, which is way better than having to wait like 14 days to get a deal. So the takeaway here is good, better, best pricing is simple, but most roofers don't do it, so it's very important. In this case, Tom competes on price. He's basically just the lowest option. Jason is actually competing on his options and the trust that he's built with the homeowner. So that's going to be the third pillar. Now the final pillar, the follow-up, and this is the one that most roofers absolutely neglect. They usually just don't do it whatsoever. It's going to be actually keeping in touch with the homeowner post-appointment. And this is something that, to be honest, most roofers are really bad at. A lot of our bad roofers, I would say about like half of our clients who just don't really get good results, they just wait for the homeowner to get back with them. We hear this a lot. I'll just wait for the homeowner to get back with me. And obviously this never works. You know, when you're just waiting for someone to look at your email bid and get back with you, that might work on a family friend, on someone who you know personally. But a person who's a stranger, a person who's a cold lead from advertising or leads or anything like that is never going to get back with you. You need to be on top of it. And that's another problem, is they can't even be on top of it because they have no structure. They don't have a pipeline. They don't have like a clear CRM with a hot list, who they need to follow up with, when they need to follow up with them. There's no clear like management process post-appointment. And when they do follow up, usually it's kind of in a pest way. They're kind of just checking in. They're not really providing value or helping the homeowner in any way. So the homeowner, what happens in this case is they're going to stay in the think about it stage, and they're going to view Tom as a pest. They're not going to really view him as someone who's providing value. They're kind of just like, oh, this guy keeps, he's another roofer trying to get my money. They don't really like you in that case. And what successful Jason's going to do in this case is he's consistent. Again, he's not just checking his pipeline every now and then. He's consistently calling them, texting them, emailing them, reactivating them. He's consistently initiating them. And when he's in the area, he drops by. He just drops by. I was in the area. I was at, another neighbor's house. I was just checking in with you. Did you end up blah, blah, blah. He's consistently maintaining rapport with the homeowner in a non-pest way. Again, he's not pestering them or harassing them. He's just consistently providing value. And it makes it so the homeowner actually likes them. He's not pressuring them. He's maintaining rapport with them. So for example, if a storm happened, he's making sure he's giving them a call. He's actually providing value. He's not just, hey, are you going to sign the deal? Hey, are you going to sign the deal? Hey, what's your decision? He's actually maintaining that. And another thing is he has a structured pipeline. He has a hot list. And this is in any sales organization, but you need to have a structured way of knowing who is close to the money and how you can follow up with those people to stay on top of all your deal. Now, the result with this, and this is why the whole process is so important, because Jason, from day one, he's built trust, the homeowner is responsive to his follow-up. And that's another thing. Jason might do the same follow-up as Tom in some instances, but Jason will actually get response because the homeowner likes him. The homeowner is responsive since day one. And they're probably going to end up picking Jason as opposed to Tom, even if Tom is $3,000 cheaper. Jason could be the more expensive option, but because he was the more professional one, he was the most trusted one and the most consistent one, the homeowner prefers it. And this is why sales is so important and having the right process is so important. So the takeaway here is follow-up is not pestering when you've earned the relationship. When you've been consistently warming up that homeowner throughout the whole process, you're actually doing them, you're actually doing right by them by consistently following up with them. And half of the roofers who can't close simply don't follow up. We see that our guys who consistently follow up usually add 10 to 15% to their close rate. And that's why the whole sales process here is going to matter, not just consistently following up with people. So that's mainly going to be the gist of it. And it's by having a sales process like this that you're able to be successful. Because what we've seen is successful roofing companies, the PE-backed roofers, the guys that are making 7-8 figures, they're not the ones with the best warranties or the best materials. They're sales and marketing organizations. They understand that in this game, it's about selling people, it's about building trust and building a brand. And so they don't use the same strategies that they used 20 years ago to get a deal. They stay up to date because they understand that adaptability is the best ability in business and that they have to keep evolving if they want to close more jobs. Now that said, if after watching this video, you want our help building on a system like this and generating and qualifying your leads on your behalf so that your team can just focus on closing like Jason does, I put a link in the description. You can book a call with one of the members on my team. We'll map out exactly how this can look in your business. And if it's a good fit, we'll look at next steps. Other than that, I appreciate you for watching. I'll keep dropping more content to help you guys out. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.